Memorandum of Understanding 60 days are up. Is Trump set to return to war with Iran despite a depleted U.S. arsenal? Mojtaba flat-out rejects a truce extension after Trump strikes, raising fresh fears of another military escalation. Trump's Iran ceasefire gamble flops. Tehran lays out tough conditions as Washington pushes for a way forward. Will Trump be forced to reignite the war despite America's weapons crisis and growing pressure on its military stockpiles? The clock is ticking on Iran's fragile ceasefire with Washington as tensions once again teeter on the brink of escalation. Iran has reportedly said there will be no extension of the ceasefire with the United States as the deadline draws closer. A senior Iranian source told Reuters that no talks are currently underway to extend the truce, leaving the agreement increasingly uncertain. Tehran says there can be no extension after Washington allegedly violated the pact with strikes shortly after the agreement began. Iran claimed America broke the interim agreement just 48 hours after it came into effect, according to Reuters. Washington must return to the Memorandum of Understanding before any broader peace talks can move forward, Iranian officials have reportedly insisted. Tehran has also demanded a clear timeline for the United States to fulfill its commitments under the MoU before negotiations resume. The Iranian official said there has been absolutely no progress on the issue, adding further uncertainty to the fragile ceasefire, according to Reuters. The Iran official said, and I quote, "One of the issues that is being discussed via mediators is the U.S. returning to the interim agreement and defining a time frame for implementing its commitments. There has been absolutely no progress on this issue. There is no talk of an extension because the United States violated the interim agreement 48 hours after it was reached and withdrew from it a few days later." End quote. A Pakistani government source, however, claimed that the US and Iran had agreed to extend the 60-day ceasefire, according to reports. The 60-day period was intended to give Iran and the United States time to work toward a broader and potentially final agreement. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump launched another lengthy attack against Iran on Truth Social, escalating his rhetoric further. Donald Trump claimed that American forces have total control over the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. Trump said, and I quote, "The USA has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we will keep it. Our naval blockade is being called, by everyone, a wall of steel. And there is nothing Iran can do about it. They have no navy, they have no air force, their remaining soldiers are unpaid, the IRGC is decimated and fleeing. And their leadership is uncertain, at best. They have no money. Their country is shot. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation. And getting worse. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East no longer. Praise be to Allah." End quote. Trump's latest threat comes despite reports that America is grappling with mounting pressure on its munition stocks and interceptor supplies. Iran had adapted its attack tactics as U.S. interceptor stocks fell, using larger and more complex attack waves to put greater pressure on American air defenses. Iran reportedly used waves of missiles and drones to overwhelm U.S. defenses and force them to expend scarce interceptors at a rapid pace. The attacks targeted 3 U.S. bases in Jordan during 5 intense days of fighting in July 2026, according to the New York Times. The missile salvos forced U.S. forces to fire large numbers of scarce Patriot interceptors, rapidly draining their available defensive stockpiles. On July 17th, one missile penetrated defenses at a U.S. base and killed 3 American soldiers, showing the limits of the defensive shield. More than 100 people were wounded, while other attacks also damaged several aircraft, according to the New York Times. The U.S. fired about 50 Patriot interceptors in a single day, highlighting how quickly Iran's attacks were consuming defensive missiles. Each Patriot interceptor costs about $4 million, adding significant financial pressure as the U.S. races to replenish depleted stocks. The Pentagon used more than 1,500 Patriot interceptors and had fewer than 1,700 left, according to figures cited by the New York Times. The U.S. produced about 600 Patriot interceptors throughout 2025, meaning wartime consumption could quickly outpace replacement rates. Iran combined missile and drone attacks to force U.S. defenses to track and intercept different threats arriving at the same time. Iran effectively used tactics previously seen in Russia's war in Ukraine, combining different weapons to complicate and stretch air defenses. The tactics forced U.S. forces to handle multiple threat types arriving from different directions, increasing the pressure on defensive systems. Iran appeared to have learned from earlier clashes with Israel and the US since the Gaza war, adapting its tactics for future attacks. An IRGC advisor says Iran is shifting from a defensive to an offensive military doctrine, with readiness for cross-border operations now a central goal. Nadi claims Iran is producing more ballistic missiles than it is firing, a statement that Iran International reported but which cannot be independently verified. Nadi says the latest directives to Iranian commanders emphasize hybrid warfare, combining military power with diplomatic, economic, social, and media tools. Mohammad Reza Nadi said, and I quote, "The latest directives to Iranian commanders emphasized hybrid warfare, which is a mix of coordinated use of military, diplomatic, economic, social, and media capabilities. Our production of ballistic missiles exceeds the number being launched. In other words, we are producing more missiles and making them available to our forces than are being fired on the battlefield. We also have a production capacity for drones that exceeds their rate of use and launch, and we have significant production capacity. Production of this equipment will continue, and even if the war lasts for several years, ballistic missiles will still be produced and fired at the enemy on the final day of the war." Unquote. Iranian forces must be ready to carry out operations beyond the country's borders when ordered, Nadi adds, openly defining this as the central feature of an offensive doctrine.
Whenever the situation demands and the order is issued, we must be capable of extending operations into enemy territory and conducting missions far from our own land. These are the characteristics of an offensive doctrine that must be realized. The IRGC is now tasked with achieving this readiness and developing the capability to execute such operations at the appropriate time.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.